Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Town Manager Download, a podcast about local government and the town of Shrewsbury. I'm Kevin Mizikar, the Town Manager of the town of Shrewsbury, and as always, I'm joined by Communications Coordinator Taylor Galusha.
In today's episode, we're going to give a preview of the fall special town meeting for 2024 and review the proposed warrant.
So we'll jump into a couple things that are going on in the Shrew right now.
Yeah.
A couple things that we want to point out to folks. We have an exciting, I think this is the second edition? Second edition of Trivia Night, November 21st from 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. at Jimmy's Tavern and Grill. It's $5 per participant, and it's put on by the Shrewsbury Recreation Department.
And then if you're feeling in a recycling mood, on November 16th, there will be a recycling event at the Senior Center with the Green Team Junk Removal group from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. There's a little bit more information on the town website about what can be recycled at that event. So if you're looking to do some fall cleaning before the winter, that's a great opportunity to recycle some of those items. Awesome. I think we'll just jump right into it. Fall town meeting. Do you want to give our audience a little bit of a recap on the town meeting process? Sure. And then they can take a deeper dive later on.
So in Shrewsbury, as part of that New England tradition, we have a legislative body that is known as town meeting, and we're one of 33 municipalities that have limited town meeting form of government. And that means that we elect 240 representatives to serve as the legislative body for the community. And they meet normally 2 times a year, annually in May and then sometime in the fall, to handle all the traditional legislative authorities for the community, including budget appropriations, passing local bylaws and ordinances, and taking other related action that falls to the legislative body. Most other cities and towns in Massachusetts fall under 2 other forms. One is the traditional open town meeting form of government, where any registered voter is able to join in the legislative process while it's happening and in session. And the other, which is much more limited, falls into the more traditional city council, where there's a smaller elected body that serves as the legislative body, and they meet much more regularly, oftentimes twice a month or weekly, depending on the size of the community, to handle the legislative affairs of the community. So again, in Shrewsbury, we have representative town meeting. This is one of the best opportunities for residents to get involved directly in the local government operations and have a meaningful impact on how bylaws are passed and what content is within those bylaws and what our zoning bylaw looks like and where we put our taxpayer dollars to use. So that all goes through town meeting. Normally in the spring, it happens over the course of a couple evenings. In the fall, happens over one evening. There's a run-up to that process, which includes a number of public hearings by different bodies who have a variety of responsibility. And it's really focuses in on hearings of the Finance Committee as kind of the penultimate step in the ultimate legislative process here in Shrewsbury. We did an episode early on, episode 10, with then moderator Jim Kane. And Jim sat down with us and talk through the intricacies of town meeting form of government. So if you're looking for more information about how that process works, you can check out episode 10 of the Town Manager Download and hear from our elected moderator about that process. So the special town meeting that's scheduled for November 18th, 2024 has 14 articles, 14 specific initiatives that town meeting will take up. And hopefully today we can just provide an overview of all 14 of those articles and get individuals more information about the process that we're going to go through.
Yeah. I think one nuance that's important to point out is that as a town, we pass our budget before the state does. Mm-hmm. So usually with the fall town meeting, you'll see a lot of budget adjustments depending on what final allocations for state aid and whatnot end up being. So
that's right.
So there's a number of financial articles on our fall town meeting, but there's also some different ones related to zoning and the Personnel Board and CPC. So
Right.
do you want to just jump into it with
Yeah, let's go
Article
through
1?
the warrant. Yeah. So Article 1 looks to provide $15,000 worth of funding to the 300th Celebration Committee. The town of Shrewsbury was incorporated on December 15th, 1727. And so we're coming up on our 300th anniversary here in just 3 years. Now, folks may remember that we made an appropriation at the annual town meeting in May. And that was placed into a special account that can be used for the 300 celebration, but it is limited in when those funds can be spent. So those funds will be saved for the activities that happen, in the year leading up to and just shortly after the actual celebration itself. And we're looking to make a more broader appropriation and use with these $15,000 to seed the work of the 300 celebration committee that was established earlier this year and allow them to get underway. They have a lot of great ideas. They're not limiting their planning to one single event, so they'll need all the resources that they can get, not only in the form of the funding that town meeting will consider providing them, but also with volunteerism. So if anyone's interested, they can certainly go to the website and check out the 300 Celebration Committee page.
Yep. And there's a volunteer sign-up form on there as well, whether you're looking to donate in kind or monetary, or just volunteer some of your skills for the lead up or during the event. So
Wonderful.
And then we move to Article 2, which are adjustments to the fiscal year 2025 operating budget.
Yeah, Taylor, this circles right back on what you had just mentioned about the timing of the passage of our budget in May, and then the passage of the state budget, which includes critical funding for some aspects of our operation. Of course, state aid is the second largest funding source behind the local property tax that we use to fund our operations. And as both the state finalizes their budget figures and what they're going to provide in local aid, and then as we finalize the assessed properties that exist in town as of June 30th, we just get more information and have a fuller picture of the revenue that's available for the current fiscal year that we're in. So we do look to make about $1.3 million in total adjustments. Not all of that is new spending. Some of it includes transfers within departments from some positions that have changed. I'll just identify two of the largest investments that we're going to make. They're kind of behind the scenes within the operating support, which is some of the most costly areas that we have within the budget. We're going to increase the health insurance budget by $585,000. There's a variety of factors that are driving this increased enrollment and increased costs for Medicare retiree benefits. So we'll look to make that increase to that line item. And then the second largest contribution or change is $500,000 additionally to the pensions and retirement system. This will help allow us to offset some investment losses of a previous year and keep us closer to that fully funded system status that benefits us in so many ways. So again, of the $1.3 million in total adjustments that we're going to be making, over $1 million of that falls into just those two transfers.
Gotcha. And then Article 3 are also adjustments, but this is to the fiscal year 2025 capital improvement plan.
Yeah, that's right. So things have come up since we passed the budget in May related to capital improvements and needs within the department, specifically within public safety areas. So we unfortunately had a cruiser that was totaled in an accident while responding to a call. And so we're looking to replace that. And then we will be looking to invest in one additional officer level vehicle for the fire department. So 2 vehicle purchases to supplement the capital improvement plan that was put in place back in May.
And then Article 4, fund override stabilization account.
Yep. So this is really the benefit of the override model that we currently have in place. So we are not spending all the recurring revenue that is available for us. And then through this article, we're setting aside an additional $368,958 from taxation for deposit into the special purpose override stabilization account. Now, this special account allows us to offset future operating budget needs through this investment account, which will both prolong the duration until we'd have to go back and raise taxes, through an override. But it also allows for more consistent investments year over year in the operations of the town, so we can not only, continue operations, but make some strategic investments. So it's a great stabilization, literally stabilization resource that we have. So again, we're looking to make another deposit into this account. We have yet to withdraw any funds.
Just read my mind. That was
yeah.
my next question.
Yeah. So this is the fourth year, which was promised, and our financial situation, both because of investments in this account and other investments that have occurred throughout the community, allows us to continue without needing any extraordinary additional increases to taxes for
That's
the
awesome.
foreseeable future.
That's awesome. And then Article 5, appropriate transportation network companies funds.
Sure. So
This is new.
it's newer. It is. Yeah. So we've only made this transfer once or twice previously. The town receives 10 cents on every transportation network company ride that originates within Shrewsbury. So it's just easier to call it what it is.
So is that
Uber
like
and Lyft.
Uber? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Gotcha.
Uber and Lyft rides. So there's a 20-cent surcharge on every ride, and 10 cents of it goes to the state, and 10 cents stays with the municipality that the ride originates in. So we, over the past 3 fiscal years, have received $29,936.20 in this funding. And that means there's been 299,362 Uber and Lyft rides that have originated in Shrewsbury over that period of time. So the funds have a limited ability for what they can be invested in. So we look to add this to sidewalk, crosswalk, and pedestrian mobility initiatives account. We've used them most regularly in the past to improve accessibility within our sidewalks, add more handicap ramps, and the warning pad devices when we make roadway improvements.
Awesome. And then Article 6, appropriate funding for the municipal facilities optimization project.
Right. So the select board started talking about and continues to talk about improvements that are needed in 2 critical properties for municipal operations. First and foremost, at 205 and 211 South Street, which is our DPW operations facility. And since April, when they established a facilities optimization committee, that group has worked to do some preliminary feasibility design work for that site. Along with that work, the select board charged the committee with looking at ways to optimize investments that are needed in the town hall. We know that we have space constraints and aging conditions within the town hall that was built in 1966 and renovated in 1997. So what this article proposes to do is to appropriate $2 million in additional funding to carry forward with that design work. Really flesh out the projects, what the needs are further at South Street, identify the scope of work that's needed at the town hall, and put us in a position to come back and seek funding for the construction at some point in the spring of 2025. So these funds are already on hand. They will be invested in the design work, again, to ultimately bring a fully scoped out project back to town meeting in the spring.
So you say the funds are on hand, so that means like this wouldn't be coming from like an increase in resident taxes for this. Like this is funding that we currently possess.
That's correct. Yeah, it's coming from 2 sources. The vast majority, a little over $1.6 million from free cash,
Gotcha.
right? So and those funds are on hand. We certified $12.5 million in free cash. So even if this investment is made, we'll leave the special town meeting in the fall with more money or with more funding on hand in our free cash account than we had when we left last year. So, and then $363,000 is coming from the completed police station project. So that project came in under budget. So putting those 2 sources together, it allows us to begin investments in the
Those
next
funds
project.
have to transfer between actual building projects. You
do.
couldn't use the police like the leftover money from the police project to buy a cruiser or something. Like it has to be appropriated for another building project.
That's correct. Yep. Anything that you can make a long-term investment and borrow over a long period for. So it is very limited in what it can be used
Gotcha.
for. So, and it's really what we've seen from the capital investment projects that this community has taken on and that we've managed over the last 10 years is that we set a really sound budget. We put in the appropriate contingencies, but the committees that oversee those projects are really diligent in making sure that they bring those projects in under budget and allow for future investments to be made in other buildings because they're always going to be needed. We have well over 1.3 million square feet of space that school and municipal facilities operate from, and those buildings need investments over time.
Maintain them, make sure that they don't fall into.
Right. And the town hall is a really good example of that. It was built in 1966, and then 30 years later, we made an investment in 1997. And then, look, we're almost 30 years beyond 1997, and we're looking to make renovations. And the optimization part of this comes from the concept of building administrative and customer support space at 211 South Street for the Department of Public Works, which would enable them to move out of the town hall. And then we're not going to have a space constraint issue at the town hall anymore. And we'll be able to make much less investment in the building with the same outcome because that new space at South Street will be much cheaper than adding on to the town hall.
Yeah,
so
definitely. And then we have Article 7, accept the provisions of General Law Chapter 44, Section 54B to allow town trust funds to be invested in accordance with General Law Chapter 203C, the so-called prudent investment rule.
Yeah, so this is clearly a financial-oriented article.
I was like, that was a lot to say.
Yeah, municipalities, when we have funds on hand, and some of those are trust funds, so think about like our Affordable Housing Trust Fund, our OPEB, our other post-employment benefits or health insurance for retiree trust funds that we're setting aside for a future investment purpose. We have very limited venues that we can invest those funds in to earn interest.
Yeah.
Obviously, the reason behind that is the state set those limitations, so municipalities didn't go out and lose money in the marketplace. But that kind of original authorization of communities making their investment was quite limiting. And the state recognized that some of our investments, mainly trust funds, have a much longer life, that we're looking to pull those funds out so we can tolerate year-over-year risk. So this allows us to just be a little bit more, I don't even like to use the word, but aggressive in where we make those investments. We use a qualified investment advisor who helps support the treasurer and myself and the assistant town manager for finance in making the decisions on where our funds are invested and how we split those funds. So this will just provide a little bit more flexibility for us to undertake that. Our investment advisor comes in and makes an annual presentation to the finance committee. So if anyone's interested in that, they can check that out in the finance committee meeting videos.
Awesome. And then Article 8 is proposed personnel bylaw amendments.
Yeah, so this is an article that I'm really proud of the work that's been put into this by both the personnel board and by the human resources director, and really looking to modernize our personnel bylaw when it comes to the benefits that we offer employees. The whole focus behind this is twofold. One, ensuring that we're competitive and that our employees are on par with the benefits that they would receive in other municipalities, in some instances private sector entities that we're always competing for talent with, and then just make some administrative process changes to help continue optimize our human resources administrative processes. So this bylaw shakes down into a couple different areas. We would be looking to adjust the total amount of vacation leave that is available to employees and when they would receive it. So currently our minimum vacation leave allowance for an employee that we're just bringing on board for the first few years is 2 weeks, and we'd look to increase that by 3 weeks. To get to 4 weeks would happen a little bit earlier in an employee's career. 5 weeks is our current maximum of leave, that vacation leave that anyone can earn, and we propose to make that award to employees at 10 years with the town of Shrewsbury. We're not looking to add a 6th year to anyone, no matter how long they've been here. So we're looking to increase on the lower end, accelerate.
So they'd
the
start
earning
at
of time.
3 weeks and then move to 4.
Yep.
And
Then to
then 5 is the last level.
So this is from feedback that we've received. All these changes are from feedback that we've received from employees coming and going, and just looking externally with what other municipalities do. So that's the first change that we'd look to make. The second, probably much more comprehensive change, would be the introduction of a new sick leave plan. So Shrewsbury is pretty unique in comparison to other municipalities. Most municipal employees and state employees in the Commonwealth receive 14 sick days a year, and then they can accrue those days up to normally like 120 total days before they start to kind of get into that period where they use it or lose it. In Shrewsbury, we only have 5. So and then after 5 days, a Shrewsbury employee, if eligible, would move into a short-term disability program where they'd earn 80% of their salary for a certain period of time, actually up to 52 weeks.
Gotcha.
So we're looking to make changes to this plan to make alterations to that, and then also expand how sick leave can be used and introduce paid family medical leave, which is one of the areas that we're the least competitive. Most people will probably be familiar that the private employers within Massachusetts are required to offer paid family medical leave to all their employees. Municipalities were exempt, but again, trying to be competitive, we see the need to offer that, and our employees have requested it. So we'd be introducing a new paid family medical leave to give someone up to 6 weeks to care for their loved one. That's about half the time that you would get if you're a state employee. Paid family medical leave in different increments, either 12 weeks, 20 weeks, or 26 weeks. And then we would be reducing the amount of time that an individual could be out on leave for their own personal disability from 52 weeks to 26 weeks. So we're looking to make a variety of changes. I know it's a little hard to follow just from an audio standpoint, but we'll be providing comprehensive presentation, not only at town meeting, but at the finance committee at their
I was going to say, Christina had a good, Christina Ordung, the human resources director, had a good chart, I think at her select board presentation. So I'm sure we'll see that again at finance committee as well.
Yeah, so we're really targeting on just modernizing our personnel benefits package that we have. It is a good balance of not only being competitive, but also still being reasonable, knowing that resources are limited within the community, and we have to work within the means of the budget.
Yeah, definitely. And then Article 9 is the MBTA community zoning / transit-oriented overlay district zoning proposal.
Yeah, so probably one of the most talked about policy issues in Massachusetts over the last 18 months or so has been the MBTA community zoning requirement, where municipalities, depending on 177 municipalities in the Commonwealth, are required under Chapter 40A, Section 3A to develop zoning districts that allows for multifamily housing by right of at least 15 units per acre. So it's a density that is higher than any zoning district that we currently have allows by right.
Gotcha.
And we've spent a lot of time developing the zoning associated with this. It has been reviewed by the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities. They didn't find any significant issues with it. The minor issues that they've identified, we've addressed in subsequent revisions since we've received that feedback in early October. And now we're looking to move forward to bring this to town meeting for consideration and adoption. We've defined the zone of where MBTA, this zoning would be put in place, basically between 20 and Route 9, from the area of the Commons apartments and condos
Yep.
through 409 South Street, and then south across Route 20 to 33 Green Street. This is an area where developers have active interest in developing multifamily housing. So not only is the market describing this as a good place for housing and people want to invest there, it also means that we're not creating zoning that will have such high densities in other areas of the community, in addition to the areas where housing is already in the pipeline.
Yeah, because 33 Green Street, that's the
Emerald Run.
Emerald Run.
Yeah.
And then 409 South Street is the newer project.
Right.
I don't remember the name of. But.
Yeah, so that's being proposed by Criterion Development there. I don't know that has an official name for the community yet, but yeah, exactly. So there's, again, high interest in that area. Actually, the 33 Green Street property has already been permitted under the 40B process.
Right.
And, so we've committed from the beginning to bring compliant zoning to town meeting and allow them to make a decision.
Right.
That's the decision for the legislative body. They shape all the planning and development policy for the community. And we will be bringing compliant zoning to them. It's been recommended by the planning board. And I look forward to the conversation with town meeting about any associated or perceived impacts with this type of development, with non-compliance, and then answering any other questions the town meeting has about this zoning initiative.
And there was some good discussion at the previous planning board meetings. I don't remember the dates off the top of my head, but they're all recorded on the Shrewsbury Media Connection. So if people weren't able to attend them, they can kind of see the different sides of everything, talking points, and kind of learn more about the zoning so they can go into the meeting feeling informed.
Correct.
And then Article 10 is a citizen's petition regarding an elected planning board.
Sure. So this is a citizen's petition. So along with town meeting, citizens have the opportunity, if they achieve a certain number of signatures of registered voters within the community, to bring their own legislative initiatives forward. Petitioners through this article had sufficient number of signatures certified, and their proposal is to shift the planning board's appointment authority away from the town manager's position and to make it an elected body. I'm not exactly sure the actual rationale behind or what the why is, what the proponents are looking to overcome. I can speculate, but I don't think that would be appropriate. But regardless of that, Shrewsbury operates under a form of government that was thoughtfully proposed and put together and has benefited the communities for the last 70 years. So in 1954, we started under the Limited Town Meeting Act that we've talked about with representative town meeting. And then on the executive side, there were a great number of revisions to how we operated and really vested the power and the authority in the voters to a single elected select board, with all the executive duties and responsibilities falling underneath them, and with appointing authority shared between the select board and the town manager when it comes to municipal operations. So this allows for those parties that have responsibility in carrying out work on behalf of the entire town, not a small group within the town, to not only be accountable to the residents, but also make sure that they can effectuate the work that needs to be done on behalf of the entire community. So what I see are a number of challenges that would come down the line if something like this were to pass. I think because the legislative body, which is town meeting, is the key policy development entity for zoning and development in this community, when they pass and amend the zoning bylaw, you would be creating an elected body who may tend to operate differently than an appointed body would, because an elected body is going to feel more political pressure when they're making their decisions versus an appointed body. So those elected planning board members would be subject to their next election, political campaign contributions and influences and people trying to directly influence them and how they make their decisions. And that could very well be contrary to what is within our well thought out zoning bylaws. So town meeting has the policy setting authority, and just because you elected a planning board doesn't mean you're going to take that policy setting authority away from the planning board. Mm-hmm. And you wouldn't want those planning board members to have such a pressure that they may feel it's in their best interest to act in opposition to what that zoning bylaw is that's in place, that's put in place by town meeting. So having a non-policy setting body that is the planning board elected would be the only non-policy setting body in the community that we have that is directly elected. The planning board, again, carries out the zoning bylaw and stays within the confines that's set by the policy setting authority, which is town meeting. So the system that was set up in 1954 really is thorough and comprehensive, and there's a number of balancing points and checkpoints throughout that. And I think tinkering with, one aspect of that will have much broader ramifications to that well thought out system than one may expect. So I certainly look forward to presenting many other thoughts that I have on this matter at town meeting and with the finance committee during their public hearing process. But just broadly, the town meeting having the policy setting authority for planning and development in this community, it doesn't seem wise to me to have another elected body who's charged with carrying that out, because that's not the discretion or the influence that you want to have at the planning board.
They're subject to the zoning bylaw.
They are.
That's their the guardrails that are put up by town meeting.
Yeah. So over the years since 1954, and it's been a slow and steady evolution even since then, the trend not only clearly in Shrewsbury, but in many other places, as communities grow and get more complex and our operations get more complicated, communities move away from political elected officials who are subject to political influence, and having them on the executive side of operations. Certainly there's a much needed role in a balancing act and great need for elected individuals and positions within the community, but those tend to be, again, on the policy setting side, not on the policy executing side. That's where appointed officials come in. So again, look forward to having a much thorough conversation about that at town meeting, but I would be concerned with the outcomes that may be generated from a popularly elected planning board if this article was adopted.
Okay, we'll move on to Article 11, which is the first of 4 Community Preservation Committee projects, which is the lightning protection on the First Congregational Church. And I think what might be helpful is to remind folks about how, like, the CPC process, that it's like an application process and community members apply for it. I don't know if you want to touch on that really quick and then jump into the 4 projects.
Yeah, absolutely. So 3 of these articles are associated with the First Congregational Church. The CPC does go through a robust application process that is open to groups like the Congregational Church and individual residents for community benefiting investments. Since the First Congregational Church is a historic structure within Shrewsbury, it is eligible for historic reserve funding, and this one would make an investment. This project would make a $25,000 investment for a lightning protection system within the part of the church that currently doesn't have it. I know some people may automatically jump to separation of church and state and how can you use public funds for a private investment like a church. First and foremost, I'll remind everyone, certainly a church, as a community of the town of Shrewsbury, the first public building that was ever constructed was the Congregational Meeting House.
Yep.
It's not the building that was there because unfortunately that building was quickly determined to be too small, and they built this second structure that's been in town ever since. So this investment will preserve that historic asset within the community, and this has been reviewed by council and is appropriate within the anti-aid amendment within the Massachusetts Constitution.
And then I just want to add that the different areas that people can apply for projects for within the Community Preservation Act are for open space, recreation, historic preservation, and community housing, and then different like categories within those. Some obviously don't line up with them, like you can't create a historic thing to preserve, so like you can't, that's not an option for that, but acquiring, creating, preserving, supporting, and rehabilitating / restoring. I believe this is historic preservation under rehabilitate, restore. So, and then the next project for Article 12 is the trim repair on First Congregational Church.
Yeah, that's a $5,200 investment with the same historic preservation reserve of the CPC.
And then Article 13, another CPC project, the architectural survey for the First Congregational Church.
That's a $10,000 investment that's being made through that article, or proposed through that article.
Mm-hmm. And then Article 14 is a CPC project for historic gravestone restoration, which may sound familiar to some town meeting members, as it was also a project in the spring.
All right, so this provides full funding for that initiative. It's another $45,000 made by the CPC to preserve historic gravestones in the Mountain View Cemetery.
And that's all 14.
Yeah. So town meeting should be very interesting. Several of those articles will likely elicit some significant debate, and we look forward to engaging with town meeting members throughout the process. Any town meeting member that's listening can expect that their packet will be delivered electronically and mailed out on November 8th, which is Friday. So you should receive those in the mail the beginning of the following week, but check your inboxes, and if you need to update your email, please do so with the town clerk's office. Yeah. Taylor, you've been providing bi-weekly updates?
Started as bi-weekly when we were a little farther out, but we've been a couple weeks into the weekly updates as we head up for town meeting.
Sounds good.
So you can expect another one on Friday and the week after, right before town meeting. And then if town meeting members have any questions, they've been tuned into select board meetings and the finance committee hearings and planning board. If they have any questions before town meeting, they can always feel free to reach out to us ahead of the meeting if there's information that they need to feel better informed about the decision-making process.
Great. Well, thanks for continuing to keep in town meeting members and the rest of the community update on all the work that's going on by their fellow community members and town staff. Taylor, I appreciate your help in getting through the 14 warrant articles of the special town meeting that's going to occur on November 18th. So on behalf of Taylor DeLucia, I'm Kevin Mizikar. Thank you for listening to the Town Manager Dialogue.